Hi, my name is Justin Allen Hayes, founder and executive director of Voices for Voices, and this is my overdose story. Many people may think that overdosing may only stem from uh, prescription drugs or illicit drugs that are purchased on the street, heroin, cocaine, crack. Uh, and then those again that are prescribed, maybe somebody's gone through a back injury, uh, a leg injury, or is just in that final care of life, where the thought is to keep people as comfortable and out of pain as possible. So there might be prescriptions written from a trusted and certified medical doctor or surgeon for Oxycontin might be the most recognizable name, where that prescription particularly was being written for cases that weren't really approved by the organization Purdue Pharma, who was putting that out there. So there was a little bit of greed, or a lot of greed, really, that was really out there for that organization to prescribe, and then profits go up. But the problem with that is with that particular prescription medication, it has very addicting qualities to that. And anybody who knows somebody who has battled addiction, whether that is from prescriptions like Oxycontin or maybe addiction of alcohol abuse, uh, knows that you may start out at a low dose, maybe 10 milligrams, and then 10 milligrams isn't doing it at some point. So I need a higher dose, then 20, then 30, then 40. And you can see how that can really spiral out of control, really. And that's one area of overdosing. Uh, then that thought is with those illicit drugs on the street, those street drugs, that may be referred to as poisoning, because somebody, as awful as it is, who may have a habit, a cocaine habit, a crack, a heroin habit, well, they may have the habit, and that in itself is not great. Uh, but individuals, when they purchase the specific drug, such as heroin, they think that they're getting heroin. And we're finding that uh, there's a lot of fentanyl coming through the open borders, uh, manufactured predominantly in China, coming up through the southern border of Mexico, and really just spilling. And that comes from a sense of greed too with these drug dealers, is they're able to cut the drug two, three, four, 5 times to be able to make one, two, three, four, no, two, three, four, 5 times the profit, while not realizing, or maybe they do realize, that what they are cutting the particular drug with could have an unintended, or unfortunately, maybe there's some sick individuals out there that might have that intended consequence of having an individual overdose and potentially die from that situation. So what's it have to do with my overdose story? So right now, uh, being a 41-year-old on the road to recovery since 2017, uh, I've had a lot of temptations to go back to consuming alcohol, abusing alcohol, and and other substances as well. And it's really hard. It's a battle. It's a daily battle. It is not something that, like a sprained ankle, where you may be able to tell when that particular injury heals. With recovery, and especially given my firsthand account, it's a daily battle. Some days are easier, some days are tougher. But how this all really comes into a home with myself and our organization is going through recovery does not mean that we'll never get sick. Doesn't mean I'll never have cold symptoms, flu symptoms. Uh, so that presents a little bit of a challenge, right? What do I mean by that? I mean that when I'm not feeling well, I go to the doctor. The doctor diagnoses, oh, you have a common cold. Oh, you have the flu symptoms. Oh, you have strep, whatever that may be. And then there are ways to try to combat that, certain medications to do so. Well, given my journey and my experience of being on this recovery journey, I find myself having even more temptations when I'm at the doctor's office and the doctor prescribes a certain medication. Then my mind starts flashing back to my late teens, when some of the abuse, substance, alcohol abuse really started to begin for me. And that was very recent in that this flashback came about. I was exhibiting flu-like symptoms, cold-like symptoms. I wasn't sure what exactly it was. And I was able to stop into the local drugstore, talk with one of the pharmacists. And the reason why I wanted to start there was because I am on recovery. There are certain medications that I'm taking every single day, morning, noon, and night. That's just how my life is with that. So I want to make sure that if I try something, let's say over the counter, that whatever that specific medication is, it won't interfere with the other medications. So the mental health, mental illness medications that I'm taking, because we don't want to have an interaction and that could turn out bad. So was at the store. That pharmacist was going through the different options of what, after I told him my regimen is, and he came across this box. And this box was a box that flashed me right back to being 18 years old, and where the overdose story that I'll get to really began. And so this specific box had and has cold and cough medicine over the counter, and the name of the brand is Coricidin, cold and cough. And nothing against Coricidin, the brand, at all. It was more of the flashback of that was the name that took me back to my late teens, in specific, I believe 18, right after graduation of high school. And so this story begins like a lot of stories of kids having fun, hanging out with friends, being interested in relationships of the other gender, the other sex. And so that meant wanting to put myself in positions to be able to meet more people than just at school. At school, I really didn't fit in high school. my sports career as I wanted it to be really started to come to an end. And I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do in life, whether I want to go into the military, go to college. And because of this uncertainty, I really didn't have a plan, and I really wasn't able to focus on one specific thing. And so you layer all that on top of friends, being in relationships and meeting people. Uh, I had braces twice in my younger years. Uh, I had a lot of acne, and so my face was constantly broken out, and picking at it. And I would think maybe that would be a part of why maybe girls might not have been as interested in me as other boys at that time. So be that as it may, looking for people who accepted me, that I thought accepted me for who I am. And that really brought me into contact with a few different people who at the time I called friends. And with my experience particularly, we experimented with different things, like marijuana, ecstasy, uh, cocaine, and then there was alcohol. Well, we weren't old enough to purchase alcohol, so the search came on of who knew somebody that was 21 or older that could go to the store and buy these high school underage kids alcohol for the weekend. And so we would look at, you know, what would be the quickest, the highest proof that would get us, we call buzzed or drunk. Uh, and so that was happening. So very unhealthy behavior. Absolutely not condoning it, but it's a fact. And then there were the times where we weren't able to find the person 21 or older at the time to purchase the alcohol for us. And so we turned to other things. And I vividly remember one Friday after school, and me and my friends, we were talking, and we were going to go to this club, this teeny bop club where they play the pop music, and people dance and meet people, and you get the idea. And and so we didn't have alcohol, so we weren't able to quote unquote pregame before we went out for that. uh, One of my friends at the time said, "Oh well, hey, there." My one friend mentioned this thing, and this will help us get high or have that high feeling. Uh, and the other term was, floating feeling of like, oh, like I'm floating, I'm not really walking. So this whole like sensation. And so as a 41-year-old, that scares me, as it probably scares a lot of people. But where I was and with the people that I was with, uh, I was like, yeah, like that sounds like a great idea. So let's do it. So off to the drugstore we went. So we were 18 or over. So we would get carded purchasing this over the counter medication. And so the name of that medication is Coricidin cold and cough medicine. And each pack came with 16 total capsules or tablets, they call it. So 16 round red tablets would come in each box. And so that first first time, my friend at the time said, "Oh well, my buddy took, yeah, 8 of them, so that'll be good." And so all of us were like, "Yeah, that sounds great." So not only were we like, "Yeah, it sounds great," uh, one of us was going to be driving after taking those. Uh, and again, I just get chills like even thinking about this progression in my life. But I know it's going to make sense. It's going to connect with people out there. Again, as you know, we have followers, listeners, subscribers on every continent of the world. So I know this is gonna help. This is gonna help. Even if a parent, somebody going through a tough situation, maybe somebody who knows somebody who might be acting out of character and might not be of age of purchasing alcohol, uh, and so maybe this is something to think about. So the the three of us, we each went in and we each took went to the shelf, picked up a box of his Chlorcidin cold and cough medicine, 16 tablets, and we proceeded to pay for them. And at that time, overdosing on over the counter over the counter medicine was starting to happen. And so one way governmental authorities and the hospital and healthcare system that they tried to combat that was uh, first off carding, making sure somebody was at least 18, and then that data, let's say every day, would go into a database, and they would obviously have our driver's license and our birth date and social security number and all that. So they were able to kind of ping and look and see, are these people buying more than one, and what are the amounts, and try to fight it that way. Uh, so that was kind of going on the back end. So that first time, uh, we each had again a pack of 16, and we're like, okay, yeah, like, let's do 8, and we're like, okay, is that really going to get us high? Is that going to get us messed up? These are just thoughts that were going through our heads. And my friend at the time is like, yeah. He's like, oh, my buddy took 8, and he said it was phenomenal, and and so we're like, yeah, that sounds great. We've kind of went through the process of asking before we purchased, and then after we purchased, and so we made the purchase, and then we each took 8 with a bottle of water, and that night it was to say crazy is the least. So that floating sensation, that spacey feeling of like, am I really present? Am I really walking? Am I really talking? And at that time, it, that was what we thought was cool. We thought that was like, oh yeah, like we're getting messed up. We're great. We're having a fun time. And so we went to that club, and we all had a good time. And so that was the first week. And then in successive weeks after that, we would go more, meaning we would take more. So we would each, after that first time, we would again, we have that 8 left over from that first pack, and then we would go purchase more. And I think we stepped up maybe from 8 the first time, maybe 12 or 13 the second time, and then the next week or a couple of weeks uh, after, then we went up to taking all 16. And so we consecutively were moving up because we're like, oh wow, we took 8, but I wonder wonder what 12, wonder what 13 is going to make me feel like. And I'm good, and I was able to function as a human being, right? This is just crazy talking about it right now, and thinking about how we thought this was a great idea at the time. So that takes us to my overdose evening. And so that evening started like all the other evenings prior, where we would get together, we wouldn't be able to find somebody to purchase the alcohol and go that route. And so, let's go do what we're able to do. Like, yeah, they're going to card us at the store, but they're not going to stop us from purchasing it. Uh, so we did that, and at that point, our say our tolerance or our level, we were over those 16 tablets. So we were set to take more than just that first box of those 16 tablets. And so we needed to buy 2 packs each, because if there were 16 in the first pack and we were stepping up from there, then we needed to get 2 packs each. So we did that. And my friends, they said, okay, well, let's take, I think it was 20, 24. So it was half of the second pack. So instead of just jumping up by 2 or 3, it's like, oh yeah, like we'll just jump up. Like the more we jump up, uh, that makes even better sense. And it absolutely does not. Yeah. And so I remember Billy sitting in the backseat of my friend at the time's car. We all have 2 packs. They're talking about like, okay, let's take the 24, uh, and I'm like, oh yeah, and so I was like, all right, so I took the 24, and then this the only way I can explain it is by saying like this competitive nature, which is not good in this particular respect. So usually competitive, uh, if someone's competitive at a spelling bee, well, I want to spell more words than my competition. If I'm playing baseball and I'm a pitcher, I want to strike out the most batters and I want to give up the fewest runs. I want to, in basketball, have the highest score at the end. And so those are kind of competitive thoughts. Uh, but I brought that over kind of into just being human and being alive. And so I ended up taking 2 full packs of this quercetin cold and cough medicine. So take 16 in the first pack, 16 in the second pack. You add that together and you get 32. So that was what I took that night. And I wasn't driving. We were on our way to, I remember we were on our way to watch Scary Movie in the theater. And I took the 24 that we were talking about, but unbeknownst to my friends, kind of within about a minute or two after, I I took the rest of them. So then I took those 32, and my friends were like, what did you do? And I was like, oh yeah, like I took 32. You guys were taking 24. So I had to, you know, I had to do one up, one better, which is terrible, absolutely terrible, awful, life-threatening, dangerous. I wish I never did that. Uh, so I took the 32. It took about, I don't know, maybe 20, 25 minutes. We're at the movie theater. Of course, it's, the lights are out and the movie's on the screen. And I felt fine during the movie. But it was when the movie let out, when the lights came on, and I tried to walk and literally walk up the ramp, out into the hallway and then outside and then to the parking lot to the car. That's when I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I am floating and I feel like I'm literally in outer space. And so, like, not only that, I was looking like a zombie because it was like I had my hands out as I was reaching for something to hold on to as I was walking. Because with that space out feeling, it's like, oh well, I could fall at any moment. And my friends were like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine, I'm fine. Uh, And then we continued to walk uh, into the lobby, and they're like, "Are you sure you're okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, it's fine. Like, let's go get something to eat." And so we went over to Perkins. That was our thing to do. Like, yeah, we can't go to a bar, so we'll go hang out here. Uh, and so we went there and ordered food, uh, and I had to go to the bathroom. And so uh, the waiter and waitress, they said, "Oh, well, you go out here, you turn right and a left." And so they're giving directions, which I normally would be able to understand. Well, I couldn't really understand it. So I found myself in the lobby of the Perkins restaurant and just wandering, like having that zombie look of that floating. And I found myself in the kitchen of the restaurant where like I walked in because I had no concept of literally of anything at that point. Um, and so I was helped, like, "Oh, the bathroom's over here," and somebody walked with me. Uh, and somehow miraculously went to the bathroom, then had another journey to find the table that we were sitting at. Like, where, who am I with? Where are we at? What's going on? Just totally oblivious, not in my mind at all. Finally made it back to the table, and I remember having this like queasy feeling. So besides all these other sensations going on, I was getting this like queasy feeling, right? I took 32 of something, whether it was good for me or not. uh, I would probably recommend that 32 of anything's probably not a good idea to be taken. And so I had a cup of water and I threw up in the water on the table. And my friends are like, oh my gosh, like, are you okay? What's going on? And so they really started to freak out at that point because I did that. And then I just put the cup over like on the table, like in another area, kind of like if you finish a cup of water and then you move it over to have it filled up or something like that. And so they started to get real concerned. And luckily at that point, there was an off-duty policeman, and it was basically saying, your friend's really sick. He needs to go to the hospital. So at that point, it was at really crossroads because up until that day, uh, and actually during that day, as as good friends that we were and as great things we were doing, which we were doing awful things, we're doing dangerous things that never should do. We would have this pact of saying if somebody is high or messed up, just go and drop them off at home, and uh, they'll sleep it off. We'll wake up in the morning and start anew. Well, at that point, uh, that was an option. So my friends at the time, they could have did that. So they could have carried me, helped me to the car, get in a seat, and they could have took me to my house um, eh, and try to first off for me try to even find the door to the house and my parents, and there'd have been so many more uh, hurdles that I would have to get through just to even get home to get into bed at that point to sleep it off. Uh, but luckily, my friends at the time, they ended up taking me to the hospital, which is where I belong at that point. We didn't realize how serious it really was. I remember we got to the hospital and I was like, "Why are we here? Why don't you take me home?" And getting kind of this argument. And I'm with the receptionist, and she's asking my social security number and just basic check-in information. And then I would give like two numbers of my social security number, and then my mind would just wander. and then they would say, okay, what's your social security number? And then I would start over again. And it took, I think they said close to 10 minutes for them to get my social security number out of me, because it was just, I was just in terrible shape, in dangerous shape. Uh, I was like, don't call my parents, don't call my parents. They call my parents. But I, you you want your parents there. God forbid something bad is going on. So they called them. I end up obviously in the emergency room, and they hooked me up to all these wires, and I'm like, I'm not staying here. And I think I'm going home. My car's not here, so I don't know how I'm going to get anywhere, because I don't have my car here. Uh, and even if I did, I shouldn't have been driving in that state. And not to mention being in a hospital gown and all that, I can just visualize. It was just very warped thinking. It's not right. And next thing I know, they I they're trying to pump my stomach, right? So they're trying to get the ingredient out that was making me feel that euphoria, uh, because what it was doing, it was putting a huge amount of pressure on my organs to filter that through. And as I would later find out, that if my friend at the time didn't take me to the hospital, the doctor said, like, he probably wouldn't have even made it. And when I say wouldn't even made it, that means I would have died. I wouldn't have been alive. So this high feeling, this fun, all this warped thinking of where we were at as a group of people, uh, could have just came to an end tragically. And it was still tragic of having to have one of your friends go to the hospital, be admitted, have their stomach pumped, be there for, and to this day, I still, I don't even know, I don't remember it. It was either 2 or 3 days that I was in the hospital. So then came, the questions, were you trying to kill yourself? Were you trying to commit suicide? And I was, as I was coming to it in the hospital, I was like, no, I'm not, I wasn't trying to hurt myself. I wasn't trying to, I was just trying to get high. I, we were just being competitive, and we started out with this many a few weeks ago, and then we worked our way up, and then I'm a competitive person. It's all these things. Now that I'm talking about it, we're absolutely, uh, they were so dangerous. Just that thought process of, like, yeah, that makes sense. Let's take more. Let's do more. Uh, that we were, and I was so smart that I knew more than what my body could handle. That's a bunch of BS, because I'm not a doctor. I wasn't a doctor, uh, and to understand what organs can go through and still kind of survive, uh, I I still don't have a concept of that. So I wasn't really in a position to say, yeah, I'm a respected authority on this particular topic. Like, yeah, I don't think so. So the social worker was asking me more questions. Once I was released from the hospital, I was asked to go into counseling for a period of visits. And sitting here now, I don't remember exactly how many visits I went through, but each of them, I had this mindset that I didn't need to be here. I don't have a problem. I wasn't trying to hurt myself. I wasn't trying to harm myself. And so that, coupled with my general physician prescribing an antidepressant for me, it just all wasn't really mixing. So I had that kind of rebellious attitude even after what I went through. Like, I don't need this, I don't need to take this. And all these all these events were just kind of coming together. And that really led me to when I was able to, turn 21, and the times I was able to consume alcohol and go overboard and pregame before I would go out somewhere, and then drink more after, and then continue uh, different other prescription medicines that our friends would like. Oh, uh, I have some Xanax. I have an Oxycontin, and so it's the like, oh, I'll buy this off you, and so they're legally getting it, and you're legally, or I'm illegally buying it, um, and so that just kind of that morphed into uh, where I was as an individual, and which led me to 2017 in November, where I just had a complete crash of my body, my mind, my spirit. And I can really look at this point back at that overdose situation that I went through, which led to my hospital stay, um, as, let's say, kind of inflection point of I started to go down that road, and I just kept going, and I found a different way. And again, when I was able to start that consumption of alcohol and purchase it on my own, most all the other methods went by the wayside, because it was like, oh, I can get alcohol anytime I want. I'm gonna go purchase what I want when I want. I'm gonna go out to the bars. I'm gonna partake in activity, and thinking that was good, and that also was not good. So whatever substance I went to, whether it was over the counter, like that Corsi and cold and cough, or whether it was again a Xanax or an ecstasy, Oxycontin, whatever those were, then alcohol, all those were having the same impact kind of on my mind of I can't handle the world. And as sad as it is to say it, I couldn't handle the world. I couldn't handle my life, and it's nothing against my family or anything like that. For whatever reason, I was just not equipped, or the damage from all the different things, substances that I did, started to eat at my body in different ways. Um, and so I would be have anxiety in all kinds of places, of driving, of being in a restaurant to eat. Uh, and then I would feel like I was allergic to things. So then I wouldn't eat, and I lost close to 30 pounds in a couple months period. Different jobs, different situations with those. I was just found myself just unhappy, didn't know what to do. I really just did like a kind of does, and goes into their shell. And I just wasn't able to kind of process the world, because up until that point, up until 2017, I was using a substance one way or another as a crutch for uh, all kind of situations. If I was traveling, if I was on an airplane, oh, I can get some alcohol. I'm gonna have a few drinks, and do that. Oh, I'm going to the club. Oh, I'm going to go to the store, buy what I need, make sure I have it, and and go that route. If I was was in college myself, there were times where I would uh, drink alcohol before I'd give presentations. because the anxiety and the stress, it was just so overbearing. I was like, I can't get through this unless I have a drink. Uh, and so those types of activities, again, whether it's a tablet, or whether it is a powder, or whether it is a liquid substance, all of those things really were contributing to where I find myself. Uh, and the reason why I wanted to put this together this specific way is because over the course of starting this Voices for Voices organization, I referred to overdosing and a situation that I've gone through, and I really haven't given a whole lot of descriptors or around what that was, what that looked like, from the person that's actually doing it. And I feel that this is the right time where we're at as an organization to come out and share this particular story. Uh, I do still feel, some shame and some embarrassment around it. I feel embarrassment around certain people that are going to view this and listen to this and go, "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh," uh, and I've just gotten to the point through my life that by sharing my experiences, good, bad, and different, that that's the best way that I'm going to have a chance of helping somebody, is by just sharing my story, uh, my voice. And we're voices for voices, and this is my voice. The voice years ago, my voice now, and voices for so many out there who have gone through a similar situation, know somebody who has unfortunately lost somebody, in whatever manner, whatever way. It doesn't matter how we've lost people, uh, because losing somebody doesn't help bring them back. And what I want to do is to at least just share information and put it out there. So there's, again, parts of stories, there's words, there's verbiage that I talk about in this particular episode that might not be best suited for kids. Uh, and so as an adult, a caregiver, please just be careful with this. And this might be one of those episodes where you, as the parent, the caregiver, the grandparent, the uncle, the aunt, the sister, the brother, what have you, the friend, where you might just want to take some of the content in and maybe share at your own pace, with those individuals that you care and you love about, or love. Uh, and I can even sit here today and say, even somebody that I might not get along with, I don't wish this particular experience and situation on them, uh, whether we're the best of friends or whether we're not. Because what I've also learned is an overdose, any type of a situation, it doesn't just impact the one individual, the one person. It impacts their friends, their family, their acquaintances, their colleagues. And so it's important, as a human, and my quest to help humanity, to just get as much information out, share as much as I can. Some you might agree with, some you might not agree with. I might agree how I bring up different topics, or vice versa. But I can promise you that every episode that we have filmed and recorded and aired, and that is available now in perpetuity, uh, has had a lot of thought and care and insight, and to bring people from all walks of life to share their experiences, because we're all part of this this world of humanity. And so whether you live in Buenos Aires, Argentina, New South Wales, Australia, Kiev, Ukraine, Warsaw, Poland, Rome, Italy, Paris, France, Toronto, Canada, New York City, or right here in Northeast Ohio, know that everything you're going to hear and have heard or viewed from the inception of Voices for Voices and going forward is another step to share information, to help people share their voices or share the voices of somebody they may know that may no longer be with us. And it's with that I bring this particular episode to a close. Tough subject, tough to talk about, tough to hear, tough to bring in, and tough for me to have that deja vu. A couple weeks ago, being in that pharmacy, just as I was when I was 18 years old. This time, being prescribed the same over-the-counter medicine for the symptoms I was having as that I overdosed when I was 18 years old. And so there was that thought of, oh my gosh, this is what I overdosed with. There's that temptation of like, oh, maybe I should take more than as directed on the box. That quickly came and went because of where I'm at with my recovery. I'm in a very good part, a stronger area, a stronger part. So those thoughts came and went, but those thoughts nonetheless, they come. And if you're in my position or know somebody, just support those people, support what they're doing. You know, whether it's one more day of sobriety, one more day of treatment that they've gone to, whatever that is, it might not seem like a big deal to you, but it's a big deal to that person. Because as easy as it might be for you to turn the other way or say no to something, we know that addiction is a disease and that affects our brains. So there's a lot of things that are going on in our brain or in our unconscious mind that are occurring, that it's easy to say, well, I can say no. Why can't they say no? I stop, so why can't they stop? Well, why can't they learn? Those are along the ways where I was as an individual. And so that part of the goal is just to have love and compassion towards others, not to judge others, because it's easy to judge others and say, I wouldn't do that. I don't know why she did that, or I don't know why he does that. I don't do it. I've never had a problem. My family's never had a problem. Let's just get past that as a society, as a humanity. Why don't we just support people when they're going through a hard time, whatever that is? Let's just embrace them. Let's go at it that route and see if we can come out on the other end as a more connected, caring, loving, and compassionate human and humanity in the world.